everyone, it's Jia Xuan here, and today in GoodWhale, we have a new segment called Know Your Community. This is something that the team wanted to know and explore because, end of the day, this is still a community and we would like to know you better, right? So today, I've invited somebody who is actually posting a lot inside the GoodWhale community, and he will be sharing a little bit more about himself. So I think it's a start, and moving forward, I hope that we have more people who will sign up for this kind of interview so that we can know you better and for more people to know each other better. And at the same time, every one of us have different stories and why we started our investing journey. I think that is something that relates to knowing about your whys and your goals as well. So in this community, we hope we all know each other, where all the GoodWhale community members can participate in, share their ideas, thoughts, and also, enjoy our time together as well. So today, let's get started with Ka-ming to talk a little bit more about himself. So Ka-ming, over to you.
My name is Ka-ming, CEO and co-founder of MoneyFitt, also the editor-in-chief and chief writer of the MoneyFitt Morning, the investment literacy newsletter. My background is in finance, but primarily on the investing side for 30 over years. With that experience, I wanted to help younger people and people in general to invest, because we found that people weren't investing enough and weren't investing mindfully enough. We tried various different tools to help people to do just that. But before doing that, we found that people needed to have their personal finance affairs at least moving in the right direction. And that became a whole separate journey. That's where the MoneyFitt app came from. The MoneyFitt Morning is, in a way, back to my roots to help the investment portion of that. Trading quickly, making market calls, timing calls is something that comes kind of naturally to a lot of people, rightly or wrongly. And what we do at MoneyFitt is primarily personal finance focused. The concept is helping individuals with what to do, which to do first, and why. What to do is actionable steps for them to take to fix their personal finance. Which to do first is important because everything is important, right? Do you love your children? I don't know if you have kids or not. Do you love your children? Get insurance now. Do you want to retire at age 95 and live in a box under a bridge or something? Then start investing yesterday. What if you lose your job? Everything is important, right? So it's important. What's really important is to start doing one of them or some of them, start the ball rolling, start to progress on that front. So that's the idea. What to do, some small actionable steps. Some are not easy, but basically actionable steps, most of which are just self-directed. Read this article, understand more, or top up your emergency fund. If you keep topping up by this dollar figure every month for 6 months, then you will increase to whatever figure. So these are simple, doable things that we help with. What to do, which to do first, where we have a lot of articles, a lot of everything. So what we have is 5 key verticals, if you like. So the first one is based on spending or budgeting. Next is credit card use or short-term debt. Third is based on emergency funds, pretty straightforward. And then protection. Now, protection comes in multiple forms, mostly insurance, but that's sort of the broad figure. And then investment. So investment is actually my background, as you might be able to tell. I've been doing that for a long time. And that was the original focus for my business, our business. But before you invest, not literally in sequential timeline, but before you invest, you need to make sure that all your ducks are in order or are in the progress of being sorted out, because no point investing if you're spending too much, more than you earn, right? Then something happens on the health front, and then you not only blow through your own savings, but also your mom and dad, who don't want to see their boy in trouble, or or your spouse, and then your kid will not be able to go to Harvard because everything is spent on. So there are things that you need to fix first. So starting with originally planning for something to help people to start to invest in a mindful way. So backed into this very interesting and very, to be honest, alien world for me of personal finance. And it actually became very interesting in terms of learning things that I wish I knew personally myself. I've had high income, not a superstar income type thing, but high income for a long time. But there were many things that we're not familiar with because we either weren't taught it or it's not a burning need like right now, right? I always pay off my credit card, just things that you don't think about. But, when you start addressing other factors, other things I should have done much better, then that becomes really interesting because then it becomes a very overall view of personal finance. And what we're in the process of doing is moving out from just personal finance or financial well-being into working with partners who look at physical well-being and mental well-being as well, because it's all very interrelated, right? I mean, if you are financially stressed, you make mistakes at work, you could lose your job, or you're financially stressed, you don't want to get up to work out even once a month. Or if you're physically unwell, you're not sleeping well, then, so everything is very much interrelated. So we're kind of moving in that direction. But just to share with you about where the newsletter, there's only so much you can learn about budgeting. There's a lot to do about saving money, but there's only so much you can learn about budgeting. Same for a credit card. Don't roll it over, right?
Yeah.
As a bare minimum. Or an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months. You get a raise, your ratio drops, good problem to have. So just top it up. There's not much to learn. Insurance probably needs a human being to talk to, really, because it's can be complicated. You can do only so much on your own with the help of trusted sources like us and others. No one just looks at one source anymore, right? You can do a lot of homework, a lot of comparison sites, read Seedly and whatever, investment modes and all these other guys for a lot of these things. And then investing. So investing is the one that really you never stop learning. Right? And there's so much in it, and I spent so many years in it. I thought that's where I can actually add some additional value rather than creating the platform. And that's where the overlapping interests. So it's the fifth one. So I'm providing this daily email primarily. It's also on LinkedIn, but daily email, which is there not to be a tip sheet, not to give you necessarily stock ideas. So my colleague doesn't like it very much, but I sometimes think of it as the designated driver, right? You know the term, right? It's the guy who's still sober while your friend's party, because investing can be a lot of fun, right? But it can sort of overtake you. You can just go a little bit crazy, and you can get you into trouble, just like drinking or partying. So we're sort of positioning ourselves as the sensible overall view of what's going on. I went to Colombia, so I'm definitely on the value side of things. But the only real advantage that retail investors have is patience, right? Which Warren Buffett, by having his funding, I mean, his own personal image and fame and everything aside, I mean, what he had was permanent capital, semi-permanent capital through the investment company. And that, plus his own incredible skill and intellect, was what he's been able to turn into, obviously, great success. But the danger, of course, is that retail investors will want to trade because it's fun, right? So you get a dopamine hit, right, from that. And it's dangerous. I mean, another thinker is Paul Samuelson, who said that, investing should be like watching paint dry, right? I can't remember. You make quick money, go to Vegas with $80, $800 or whatever. And he's right. So you can do all the work on the value investing side, and by and large, it's the better long-term call. But you're also up against a lot of other value investment or Buffett acolytes as well, right? Yeah. So you're up against a lot of them, both individual and institutional, with at least semi-permanent or somewhat permanent capital as well. So in that light, it can be hard to differentiate yourself from those who are also playing in the same field, also with the same potential superpower that you have. So it's an important exercise, but also needs to be put in context of how difficult it is. I mean, you're up against people with infinite holding power and all the resources of Wall Street that you could imagine, right? Not that you necessarily have to be competing with them, right? But you're playing in what can be a crowded field. So the psychology of what you're doing is at least as important, applied on top of the skills that that you quite rightly focus on with the value investing. And at the same time, we're sort of just trying to help people to understand the sort of investing landscape and mindset better since I've been doing it for all this time. What I try and provide for the community, like I said, the designated driver or just the bigger picture of what's going on. Like, honestly, who cares over here about a strike in Hollywood writers? No one, it doesn't directly affect.
Unless you know the behind the scenes, like how is it like going to affect like Netflix or this kind of companies, lah, right?
It might. And then you go in, you find out. But just kind of highlighting a topic, giving you an angle, and then you go find out. You see that there are other stories that we write about. And a lot of it is in just how I approach some of those topics as well.
Are you the only one writing all this newsletter?
I am at the moment. I'd probably look to add someone based in the US just for time zone reasons. So much news happens in the US that's of interest to global investors, and it would just be very efficient to have someone in California writing at the end of the US day, identifying stories that might be interesting, and then we discuss and then write a little bit about that topic or something like that. Right now, it takes hours and hours. It takes me a lot longer than I expected it to. But yeah, I find it interesting to do, but it's quite labor intensive.
Yeah, definitely. I think as somebody who writes some articles here, I think researching is the most painful portion where you have to source your information and then finding a good story title, all this stuff, right? Yeah.
And then making it interesting to read. So sometimes there's a message, great, and there's a story, there's a conclusion, all of these things. And then it's like, oh, a bit boring. The point of writing something is to have it read, right? So if it's dull,
if it's not eye-catching, then it defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Or halfway through, it's like, I don't care what the conclusion is, right? So then this kind of does defeat the purpose.
For you personally, what is your investment strategy, or what do you base it on?
For me, I'm not that active at the moment. So I just sort of put funds in and sort of leave them there. But when I am active, it tends to be during dislocations, in which case it's not necessarily a value call, right? It could just be a misunderstanding or a short-term reaction to something that is driven by either market structure or potentially just sort of what I think might be a poor understanding of what's going on. I mean, one example would be things like sometimes when Apple drops quite a lot, right? In the past, it was if sales of iPhone 8 or 7 were below expectation, then if you've kind of identified from just doing a lot of reading that the sales cycle has turned into 2 phones apart rather than every single phone, then, and there's a big bubble in, I can't remember, Apple 6, then 7 would be a bit soft and then 8 would be big again or something like that. I mean, and then when 7 was a bit soft, then everyone said, oh no, it's all over for the iPhone. But it's just every release cycle was changing, right? So the psychology was changing a bit. Maybe it's an every 3. You just talk to your friends. This is where you can sort of get something from the community. I mean, are you on an iPhone or Android?
I'm about to. I was like contemplating whether to buy the latest one because I was previously a Huawei user.
Okay. Yeah. But with your iPhone friends, are they on a 3 phone cycle? Did they used to change every one?
For my friends, it's more like 2 to 3 cycles.
Yeah.
Because there's not much difference between theirs and the latest one.
Right. I mean, but 5 years ago, a lot of people would say, okay, the new one, queue up for it, right? And then every new one. And then after a while, the incremental gains in performance less, so it's stretched to 2. Maybe now it's 3 or something, right? In which case, you can do your maths about it. You get an idea through your DCF or whatever favored valuation. But then if you see a sort of dislocation or a misunderstanding or in the short term, then that's when you sharpen your pencil and then you see whether, okay, this is the time to go in. And if they keep misinterpreting in your view, then you just keep buying. It just gets cheaper. And then there are other situations where you just have to be aware that the market has a life of its own in many ways. It's not just about a company and a share price and fair value and stuff. I don't know if you read what I was writing about NVIDIA, but it's the one which had a lemon squeezed, right? Where it got so big relative to its index position, and its performance was so strong that so many long only managers, unit trust managers, mutual fund managers were underweight. So the more underweight they are, while it outperforms, more they have to chase it afterwards, making it outperform even more, which is exactly like, well, not exactly in technical terms, but in market move terms, very much like a short squeeze. If you're underrepresented in an index because you have a limit on how many names you have, what percentage, the more it moves, the faster you have to chase it just to stay where you are, in which case it just gets worse and worse, right? It's like a meme stock squeeze on a massive scale with NVIDIA, right? So that sometimes there are situations like that where, I mean, that's obviously not a value call, right? But maybe you do participate. I didn't, but doesn't mean that it's not a situation that you have to look at as a value from a purely value perspective.
Apart from doing this newsletter every single day, right? What other stuff do you do?
That's a sideline.
Oh, that's a sideline. Oh, okay. I thought like that's the main role.
No, that's a sideline. I mean, it's a lot of work, but it's a sideline. So what we have is the MoneyFitt app, which is kind of like, now it's the first picture that we put up there. One of the things that I mentioned to you earlier was the going in from investment to personal finance. We sort of end up looking more broadly with mental health, physical health, and all as well.
So definitely, I think there's a lot to learn from you, because you have so much more knowledge and experience than most of us out there in the community. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Good talking to you. And yeah, I mean, next time you have events and stuff, if there's something that that might be good for me to attend,
I will ping you.
yeah, just ping me, and then I'll see you. I'm in town, and then I'll come along, and then we get to meet in person.
Nice. I think that would be great.